Would you do whatever it took to become a professional footballer? Would you leave your family and friends behind to travel across Europe and play for teams in leagues that nobody has heard of? The fourth tier of Swedish football, the third and fourth divisions in Cyprus, and all of this by the age of just 21. Hello, Elliott, and welcome to Engage.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely my pleasure, entirely. Now, Elliott Dugan, you are dubbed the LinkedIn footballer. You're somebody who was brought to my attention back in September 2021 when you had some national press coverage where you were given that moniker, having used that platform to find yourself a new football club after you'd found yourself released by Swindon Town at the age of just 18. So it was a story that really intrigued me, and I've been wanting to chat to you about this for a long time. Even when I was thinking about starting the Engage show, you were one of the people who I had in mind to chat to share your story. So I'm really pleased that you've agreed to come on here with me today. So what I thought would be really interesting as well is to get your insight as a young footballer who's trying to make their mark in the game, and just telling your story, sharing your experiences about that, and perhaps sharing what it takes to become successful in what is a really ruthless industry.
Yeah,
So before we kind of talk about all of that, I'd just like to start off with getting a bit of background information about you. So could you tell us a little bit about where you come from and where you grew up?
yeah. So I was born in Bath, pretty much lived there my whole life. Um, and to be honest, since taking football more seriously, from the age of 15, before that I was just playing Sunday league, Saturday league, development football with stints at academies, and then from 13 onwards is kind of when my football really picked up in terms of getting recognised and kind of like realizing I have a bit of ability and thinking that I can actually do this as a job was potentially there after I had a stint with West Brom. I trialed there and it went really well, but it was just traveling was too far and my family and stuff. It was a massive commitment, and at 13 and 14 and training like 3 times a week going up to the Midlands and back, it's hard to do. And then at the same time I had an offer from Southampton Football Club to go down there, and I remember Rod Riddick came to my house and sat down with me and my family and spoke about what they liked about me, how he saw me, and just what he really liked how I played, and he said he could see me having a big future and someone like that in the game. The guy who scouted Gareth Bale, if he's saying that to you and he says that you've got a lot of talent, then like you have to kind of take it seriously. And I went down to Southampton for 10 days and trained there and stuff, but I wouldn't say I trained poorly or anything. Just nothing materialised from it. I got offered to Yeovil, and but for me that didn't feel right. Um, and I decided just to stay with my Saturday side. And then the season after, I got offered by Swindon Town or Bristol Rovers, and I was at Bristol Rovers when I was younger, and it didn't really materialise myself there, and it wasn't the right fit for me. And tried something new at Swindon. It was one of the best things I ever chose, to be honest.
Okay, so it sounds like you'd always been into football, even as a young kid as well. Were you always playing football at school and just trying to play and practice whenever you could during your youth?
Oh, I was a nightmare. I was outside all the time. Oh God, as a kid, I was in the playground every day. I remember I used to go into school early with my nan. She'd take me and my brother in early just so I could go play football in the playground for an hour. I come into primary school and I was absolutely knackered because I've just been playing football for hours just outside. And in the summer, in my estate, there's a bit of grass, a little grass patch at the top of it. I remember there were six of us, my older brother, younger brother, his friends, and our friends. We used to play football from about about 9 in the morning till 9 in the evening with my mates. Everything we used to do was football orientated, and it's literally been like the biggest factor of my life since the age of 4. Um, but honestly, it's just yeah, I just haven't stopped playing.
Did you always play as a striker?
Funnily enough, no, I've literally played everywhere on a football pitch except fullback. I remember for Swindon under 18s, I had to go in goal and play against Oxford in the derby game and saved the free kick at the last minute. I started off as a centre mid, funnily enough, but I was just scoring goals. I remember my first ever game was for Bath Arsenal under fives or sixes, and I just scored. I think it was like 3 or 4 goals, and I was just scoring a stupid amount of goals as a midfielder. So I think one guy just took a look and went, "Oh, he'll do up front because he's big, quick, and he can put the ball in the net." So I kind of just been playing there ever since, to be honest.
What team did you support then when you were growing up?
Uh, I support Man United, unfortunately, at the minute. That's not the best team to support. But to be honest, I only supported them because my older brother used to support them. And I was just seeing him support him and I seen his shirt and stuff. And I just ended up supporting him. And I remember at the time, I loved Wayne Rooney. He was like someone I adored when I was younger. I just used to watch him. I was just like, wow, what a footballer.
Yeah, I think for any young footballer who has, I suppose, aspirations of playing in those more forward roles, then Wayne Rooney would have been an ideal sort of role model, I guess, because he was playing first team football very young, and he played with that really fearless style where defenders just hated playing against him, and he was a reasonably prolific goal scorer as well. So yeah, it's no surprise then I think that you admired him. Were there any other players then that you liked to watch growing up?
As I got older, well, obviously I used to love Ronaldo, watch him being a Man United fan and stuff. I used to love watching him, and I went to watch him live. But I used to love at around 13 to 15. I used to love Gareth Bale. I was obsessed with Gareth Bale. Like I had his boots, I had this shirt, I even copied his hair. I had everything. I was obsessed with him, and I was just like, I want to be Gareth. I just wanted to be like Bale because we had similar attributes of being big, quick, athletic, and he just moved to Real Madrid and he was playing for Tottenham and just got the move and he was scoring so many goals. I was like, that's what I want to play like. And obviously now he's kind of not at the level that he was, which is unfortunate. But as a footballer growing up, I used to just think, wow, what a player! Like he was unplayable. He was just you couldn't play against him.
Yeah, he has an interesting story of his own though, because I remember when he first he was first playing for Tottenham that he was struggling and the press were getting on his back and they were saying that basically whenever he played that Tottenham would lose. There was a thought at one time that he was going to get bombed out to Birmingham because Tottenham were playing him at left back, I think, at the time. And yeah, the change that he had was remarkable and went on to become one of the world's best players. So again, I think he would have been a fantastic role model for any young player looking to emulate somebody else's success. What I also wanted to ask you as well, then, so when you were in school, presumably you were playing for the school team and all that kind of thing as well. Were you the best player at school, or at what point did you think, well, I'm actually quite good compared to everybody else, and maybe I would be good enough to make it in the game?
To be honest, my school team, I wasn't the best player, like technical wise. I wasn't the best player. We had such a great team, Beach and Cliff. We had people from Bristol City, from Yeovil, and we had a lot of rugby players that played football but were still technically decent. But for me in my game, and as I was younger, like obviously my game understanding changed, and as I've got older and I've been in the game a bit more, I've kind of understood more aspects of the game. But for me when I was younger, I literally just thought like I just wanted to score. Like I'd go on the pitch and I'd score three and it would just I'd be all right. And like if I didn't score, I was just so annoyed at myself because it was for me. I just like the only reason I play football is to score, and I think that's what's kind of helped me through my career. And obviously, I've got a knack for scoring, but like you have to, as a striker, I believe, like you have to want to score. Obviously, now I've kind of experienced a bit more and understand I've got to do more as a striker in a game, but I've still got a knack of wanting to score and like that hunger to get yourself in the box and make that run. Um, but yeah, the age I'd say probably is when I was getting into my early teenage years, and I realised I was at Sunday League. I remember scoring about 75 goals in a season. I just went, I think, and everyone was telling me that, oh well, obviously you're decent and stuff like that. And I was always played like Saturday League development football, which was a good standard, and I represented the county and stuff like that. And I think when I got to that kind of 13, 14, I was getting offers from professional clubs and stuff, and there was interest. It was like, okay, I think I need to kind of pursue this. I mean, it was always in my plans to be a footballer, but the odds are just like they're so stacked against you. It's just hard work and that kind of dedication that gets you to where you want to be.
But you did get that initial break. You signed a scholarship at Swindon Town. Can you tell us a little bit about what a scholarship actually is then, in terms of being a young player?
Yeah, so I mean, some of the older viewers, they'll probably who played at that level, it was probably known as a YTS or schoolboy. So you do years in the youth team, and then at 16 you go have a meeting with the club, and they tell you if they want to keep you as a scholar or you get released. And I remember the meeting was it's a horrible feeling like going into the meeting because it's like everything you've kind of done is riding on this meeting, and it's kind of it is for a lot of people make or break. Like they get a rejection and then they kind of just pack in football and kind of say, okay, well it's not for me, and go to college and stuff like that, or they kind of kick on and get other places. But yeah, you do meet in, and I sat down with Alan McLaughlin, um, and I just had such a good relationship with him, and he taught me so much as a player, and he set good habits for me because he was on my case a lot because he wanted me to do well. And at the time, I was thinking, oh, he's on me again, but I knew that he wanted the best for me because I had such a good relationship with him, and he taught me loads of knacks of football playing such a high level, playing in two World Cups and playing for Portsmouth and stuff like that. And when someone like that speaks to you, you have to listen. And yeah, I had him as my first year, and it went really well. I scored like 20 goals, and at the end of the meeting I had with the club, they kind of promised a lot and kind of said, if you keep going how you going, like you're gonna make a debut and stuff like that, and like we're gonna get you in and around it, and you're gonna be a real threat, and like we're gonna push you through. And like when you hear that at 17 years old, you're like you don't really know what to think. Like it's hard to keep yourself grounded, but obviously the next season I had a different coach come in, and we we didn't really, I wouldn't say we had the best relationship, and it kind of showed on the pitch. And then I stopped playing as much, and I mean I was with the first team in pre-season. I was on the bench against West Brom and played against Swindon Town, and I was thinking maybe I'm going to be involved and played in front of like a few fans and stuff. And it just that season it was just such a big learning for my career in terms of I wasn't getting the games I wanted to, and I got glandular fever, and I was out for months with that, and it was just such a hard season for me. And obviously, at the end of it, you go into your meeting, and they say we don't want to keep you or offer you a pro contract, and it's heartbreaking because you put your whole life into something. You've moved the areas and you're training every day, and you've got an experience of what it's like to play professional football. And when it doesn't materialise, it's a horrible feeling.
Yeah. So how did that? How does that process work then? When I'm assuming you're coming to the end of that scholarship, then that 2 year period. What is the process then with, is it again a case of they decide to keep you and offer you a professional contract, or they let you go?
It's literally like your scholar meeting. They'll either say, "Yeah, we want to offer you a pro deal," or it's no, sorry, you're not good enough for us. And well, for mine, it was a weird one because they said that I was good enough, but I just needed more time to develop and and just get myself more experience and stuff. And I kind of saw the positives in it, and I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, okay, well, I'm good enough. I just need to develop more and just get a bit more experience in the game and stuff. And I just it did affect me a bit because I was obviously upset about. It's a horrible feeling. It's honestly the worst feeling I've ever had in football. Like it's horrible.
Okay, so after you'd got released, that was after you'd scored 45 goals across the 2 seasons as part of your scholarship. So do you think then that, all things considered, that Swindon made the right decision in releasing you, given that you were so prolific across those 2 seasons, and that goal scoring strikers are something of a premium in the professional game?
It's hard to say like if they made the right decision. I mean, if you look where I'm at now in the journey I've had, it's kind of like yeah, because I know the lads that had their pro contracts. You know, they were great players, and a lot of them have kind of playing non-league football now, playing National League South or Evo Stick or even lower. Some of the lads like who are doing uni and stuff, and but they're all great players. And if you like my experience of I've managed to stay in full time pretty much since I've been out. Um, I think it is the right decision. I don't think I was ready for League Two first team football because I wasn't experienced enough. I needed to learn things. I need to be in with men's football every day, and scoring goals is only one part of being a striker, and you have to learn so many attributes to become an effective striker. Because when you're not scoring and you're on a bit of a ban run, you need to do other things for the team. And I think it was just for me, it's been a case of learning those kind of parts of my trade and applying them into obviously the team that I come into, and every striker has it at one point where you're not scoring as regularly as you like, and you've got to do these other bits for the team, and that's kind of the knack that was holding me back for a while. Because you don't learn well, obviously when I was growing up, hold up play and stuff and link play wasn't really a massive part of a strike, it was just goals. Whereas now in terms of you've got Harry Kane, Lukaku and people like that hold up play become a massive thing for a striker. And for me I've just been learning how to use my body, the body shape, and I've been asking the senior players at clubs I've been at, like, what can I do? Like, how do I do it better? And what's the best thing for me? And yeah, I'd say that's it really. I wouldn't say that there was a right decision, but I think I've made the best of what happened from it.
Yeah, that sounds fair enough. But you weren't out of the game for very long. You were released by Swindon Town, and then in July 2019, you ended up going to Sweden. You played in the 4th tier of Swedish football for a team. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this right. I did try to look it up on the internet. Uta Hodal. I tried to find out a bit about them, but all I could find from Wikipedia was that they're a village team with a population of about 500 people. So the obvious question here is, how did you end up going out to play in the lower reaches of Swedish football?
Well, they want a attempt at pronunciation. It's actually Ita Hogdal, but that wasn't too bad. I've heard a lot of names being butchered, but that wasn't too bad. Yeah, so the LFE offer a placement program for scholars. So you've got your different categories of scholar. You've got Cat 3, which is your Swindons, Swindon, Bristol Rovers, Tranmere's, like those League Two, maybe League One clubs. You've got Cat 2, which is uh, like Colchester and places like that. Then Cat 1's obviously you've got your Man United, Man City's, Chelsea. So for the Cat 1s and 2s, a lot of players went to Spain, played in lower division Spain, and my agent at the time actually knew one of the guys out there, and um, he kind of said to me about it, and they said, okay, well, we'll take him through the LFE placement program because it was easier to do and a lot less hassle. When this is obviously before Brexit, so you could just move around Europe easy enough. Um, and yeah, I ended up going up there for 5 months, and that was like my first real experience of being away from home because Swindon's just a 40-minute drive or 20-minute train. So this was like I was in the sticks in the middle of nowhere of Sweden, and it was a 6 hour. I remember 6 hour drive on the bus from the airport, and it was brutal. Away games were horrible. It was. I remember one game we were 9 hours there, stayed the night, and then 9 hours back, and that was it was just brutal. It was a brutal period.
Do you think that was actually worth it then? When you were doing that really long bus journey, then 9 hours there overnight, 9 hours back, playing in the fourth division of Swedish football, did it ever cross your mind that perhaps you'd have been better off staying in the UK and playing non-league football rather than going over to Sweden to play in that sort of environment?
It crossed my mind the thought of obviously it's nice to be back in the UK and stuff, but for me, there's not masses of teams that are a good level in that non-league period. You've got Bath City National League South and Bolton Rovers, in I think it's Evo Stick Southern and Radstock Town and Odd Down and stuff like that. And for me, I wanted to be focused on my football, and I was weighing up my options and stuff. And I thought, well, if I play at this level, I have to probably have to get a job and stuff. And obviously, training's like once a week, and is that going to be the best thing for me? Because I just wanted to train and improve. And I thought, well, if I'm in a full-time environment, training every day, when you weigh it up, it's like I need to think what's best for myself, and I think that was the right decision at the time. And I mean, the bus journey was worth it because I scored that game. So yeah, well, I think yeah, then it was worth it. But um, I wouldn't change anything that I've done in terms of choices in my career. There's maybe a couple of things maybe I would have done differently, but the, that's the joy of being a young player. You're learning. So any job when you start off, you're gonna make mistakes and wish you'd done stuff differently at the start. But as you get older and you've seen more with your head and you think about other factors, whereas when you're a young player, it's just well for me, it's just all with your heart because you're so committed to it, and you sometimes you want something so bad and you want to prove to people stuff, and yeah, it was worth it. Yeah, so I just get sidetracked.
Yeah, that is an interesting perspective though, because you do see a lot of young players from the English leagues who go to places like Sweden and Finland and Iceland and end up playing in their lower divisions there. And for me, who's not a professional footballer, you do tend to think what's in it for them from a football perspective, I guess, because surely that the standard of football would be higher in the UK. But that's really interesting there what you say there, that it's more of that full-time environment, whereas if you did stay and play non-league in England, then for example, that you wouldn't actually be playing that much football on a day-to-day basis in terms of the training. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense now, and
Yeah.
yeah, that gives a lot more perspective to things. In January 2020, I mean, that's when things started to change, when COVID hit. And was it soon after that? Was that when all of the English non-league teams had to stop playing? Was that part of the timeline that you were involved in?
Yeah, so it was a weird one because I was at Polton and I played. I think I played a couple games for Polton and remember scoring one game and it was against Mangotsfield and then I went on loan to Odddown Football Club and for me it wasn't the best time in my career. I didn't really enjoy it, and for me I just really enjoyed my football and it was something. Oh, it was just a bit like and I hated feeling like it. I just didn't really enjoy the games, the training, and I asked to the club if I could go to Radstock on loan because I've been there before. Like I go there in pre-season and do training with them just to get myself taken over before I go in or I go away somewhere. And I knew a lot of people at the club and they had a really good setup at the club because I remember playing an under-18s game for Radstock. I was still at Swindon at the time, but I just wanted to play games and obviously I'd just come back from Glange Thief, so Swindon had to sign a day loan form so I could play this game. And the manager, Brett, partner, knew me and he was at Bristol City at the time, and the setup there was unbelievable. And the coaches were well educated, and they had great philosophy, and the players were decent. And I think I played about 2 games, and then COVID hit, and I think that's when everything just kind of got packed in.
And after that, then, was that when you found yourself working for the Royal Mail?
Yeah, that was a good experience. That was my first proper job, um, delivering about 200 parcels a day, and I just remember going in on my first day thinking I'm not going to have a clue what to do. I was thinking I'm going to absolutely, I can play in front of hundreds of people and deal with loads of abuse, but I'm more thinking I'm going to mess up when I'm delivering a parcel to someone's front door.
At that point, then, did you think that your career was over at the age of 18, 19?
I didn't really think about it like that, no. Because it was just such an extraordinary circumstance and never really been seen in in my lifetime, or like anyone that I know's lifetime. I just kind of saw it as this is like a break and it kind of made me appreciate football more in terms of working. And once I kind of done I enjoyed my time at the Royal Mail, and everyone was we were on a temping placement, and yeah, just people were asking me like, well, we were getting to know each other, and everyone was asking me, "What do you do?" I said, "Well, I play football normally, but when you have no club and you, God knows when you're going to get back through the door, you kind of need to get yourself sorted." And it kind of really gave me that hunger and desire after I kind of lost it a bit. I wouldn't, well, actually, I wouldn't say lost hunger and desire. It was lost the enjoyment. I kind of lost the value and appreciation for it. And working those long hours and doing those 200 parcels a day, it kind of made me go, right, I do really want to do this and I don't want to be doing this again. So yeah, I've just been putting my mind to it properly and just trying to get as focused as I can on it ever since.
And I suppose that leads us then to LinkedIn. Um, who whose idea was it then to use LinkedIn to try to get you back into full-time football?
I'll tell you what, I got to give my mate a massive shout out, Mike Heavy. He put me on LinkedIn. He told me about it a year before, and I kind of looked at it and went, "Oh, I'm never going to use that." It was one of those apps where, yeah, I'll download it. Never touched it, and he told me about this. Oh, it's a great way to get connections and stuff. And at the time, well, my old agent was just he wasn't very good, and I didn't have an agent at the time, and I realized I got kind of messed about by this guy, and I thought, well, I reckon I can do a better job. And yeah, I just remember one day I asked my dad. I sent him a letter I'd written up on notes, and I said, "Is this all right?" And he kind of said, "Oh well, I'll change this, and stuff." And yeah, I just remember that's when it kind of started. I sent it off to everyone, and I made like a little list in my notes of who I'd contacted in countries and like just categorized everything, so I knew what kind of everything was.
Yeah. So what sort of leagues or countries and the standard of the football? What you don't necessarily have to name anybody specific, but what were the types of teams you were trying to make contact with?
I did USL, USL one, USL two. Just everywhere around Europe. If they were a full time club, I was messaging them basically because I knew that it was unlikely to get a response. I had a feeling I wasn't going to get a single response.
How many messages would you say that you'd sent out?
It was in the hundreds. It was in the well over the hundreds. I sent loads out, and that kind of shows you like how committed you have to be to do it. Because if you sent off 100 or even 50 messages and you don't get a reply, and you can get disheartened. But for me, I just kept going, and I remember seeing 5 replies, 10 replies, 15 replies, and it was like, wow, this is actually achieving something.
How long was it then before you got your first reply back from the messages that you were sending out?
A few days, I think about 4 or 5 days. Um, and I just remember thinking, I can't remember who the first club was to respond. And then once one came in, they all started to kind of come in then and follow suit.
So you were getting some responses back quite quickly overall then. Were you getting any concrete offers at that stage?
Nothing, nothing to the point where it was, we've got a contract for you, come sign. I remember I had a couple of scam ones reply in like Thailand and places like that, and saying, "Oh, if you pay a £500, then I'll send the contract over and stuff like that." And obviously, it's wasting my time, and it was more just because I was asking in the message, "Can I come in for a trial and kind of train?" Because I knew it was kind of it's hard to get a concrete offer, and you've never seen someone. All I had was clips from Swindon and a little bit from Sweden, but like it was kind of especially with COVID and money was kind of unsure, and a lot of clubs just said you can come in and trial, and which is fair enough. And yeah, I didn't really get anything concrete.
Okay, so what made you choose APEA Akrotiri, then the Cypriot team who at the time they were playing in the fourth division of Cyprus? Was that the kind of offer that they made you then, that they agreed for you to come over and have a trial with them?
Yeah, so the way it was kind of worded, it was like it was kind of worded as if it was as long as you can kick a ball and you're not terrible, we'd be interested. It kind of felt like that, like because it was a project and they got back to me pretty quick. And the manager at the time he was I was speaking to him on LinkedIn, and I was still obviously sending other messages. I ended up messaging the president at the same time as well. So um, yeah, it was so they got confused then. But I went over and did my um did my trial, and it was literally about a week, not even a week, and they kind of just said, "Yeah, we'll take you," because I was banging goals in training, and I looked sharp. And the project when I signed was something that looked really good. It was getting the club from the fourth division to the second division, and I believe they just got promoted recently. So a few of my mates still there and stuff, and they're really enjoying it, which is good.
Yeah, you scored 26 goals in 30 appearances. I think I've read on a couple of different reports different goal numbers, uh, but if you could clarify that figure, that would be great. But did you think then, having scored that many goals in one season, did you think that that standard of football was perhaps a bit below your level?
Well, it's funny enough because the season got suspended with COVID, so we only played about 7 league games, and I got 4 goals in the league, which it's a good return and stuff. And in pre-season, we were playing a lot of Division Two teams. We ended up playing the team that went up to Division One, flying in Division One at the minute. And I remember playing them, and I didn't feel uncomfortable. I remember Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank was in the stand at that game because he knew the owner. And yeah, I think like I gave a good account of myself to one of the best strikers in the Premier League. Um, but yeah, I just remember I scored loads of goals. We played like top first divisions reserve teams in pre-season. Just I scored a hat trick, and we played Payek, who are playing Division One now. I scored on my debut against them, and I was scoring goals for absolute fun in pre-season. And the season hit, and I scored a few, and I only went 3 games without scoring, which was a decent run. And then the season just got suspended with COVID. I remember we were all kind of waiting in our apartment block together, and we heard that it was suspended, and it was a weird time because we were just doing training, and we weren't really meant to be training and stuff like that. And if there was a car coming by, then we kind of had to stop training and stuff like that. And uh, yeah, it could have gone one or two ways really. I could have kind of packed my bags and gone home because of um, it was COVID and there was curfew and stuff, and obviously we weren't really training and we weren't playing games for a bit, and the club were kind of thinking of, right, well, if we can't do this, we'll let them go home. And yeah, the league kind of messed the club about and messed us about, and they kind of kept saying it's going to be on, it's going to be on, it's going to be on, and then it got to a point where it was May, and they were going to have to play about 20 games in May, which isn't doable. So yeah, then the league got scrapped. We're playing behind closed doors games against better opposition than we would in the league, and I was still scoring absolute goals for fun, and yeah, it was good. It was really good. It was probably one of the first points in men's football that I was loving football, and I had that enjoyment of everything was just flowed from it.
Were you the only British player playing for the club at the time?
No, there was loads of foreigners. We had Dutch lads, English lads, where else did we have? Finnish lads. We had lads from everywhere, and there was about me and we had a load of English lads at the start, but a couple went home and during the season and didn't come back out. And my housemate was English. We had Australian lads. We had a massive mix of everyone. Really, it was a good environment because they were all young lads and we were all full time. We had some Cypriot older players, and yeah, it was a really good setup.
Oh wow, okay. Because one of the questions I was going to ask you was, how did you cope with being a British guy out in a foreign country by yourself playing for a lower division team then? But it sounds like you weren't really by yourself at all then. If there were a lot of other people you could mix with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, no, it was, and where I was in Cyprus is near a lot of the English people anyway. There are quite a lot of them based in Limassol with different bits and bobs based there. So it was basically like being in England just with better weather, to be honest.
And when your time then at the team was coming to an end, was there any interest, perhaps back from the UK at that point? Had anyone gotten wind of your prolific goal scoring during your time there?
I wouldn't say so. My agent at the time, he mentioned a few names back in the UK, but nothing where it was concrete. There's a contract, sign it, and we'll get you there. Um, remember I was training with uh, one of the second division teams. I can't remember their name now. But they were quite high up, and they had interest. Well, I got told they had interest in me earlier on in the season, and I had a couple of other Division 3, Division 2 clubs sniffing around, and I went in and trained with them with my mate, and it was Alki or Kalini, that's who it was, and yeah, they're like a kind of like a Norwich in the Cypriot league. They're kind of up and down, yo-yo, first and second division. And I went in and trained there full time with them, and I did really well. I tore it up. I was scoring goals and training, showing them what I had. And I remember the manager was like, "You've done really well. Probably going to offer you a contract, but at the time the club was in a financial takeover. They had a new owner coming in, other one coming out, and there was that uncertainty of like, are we going to sign him or not? Because the new owner was a Scottish fella, and kind of spoke to him once, and it was kind of just waiting to see what he does at the end of the season. Does he keep the manager and the staff, or does he just get rid of the playing squad? And he ended up getting rid of the manager, and nothing. It just kind of fell through really after getting basically said we're going to give you a deal, and that's the manager was like, well, I'm going to take you where I want to go, where I go, and I was waiting the whole of this off season of the transfer window, and he wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't hearing anything, and then he ended up. I signed for a different team, and then he messaged me a week after.
Always the way it goes, though. But you signed then for Kouris Ermes, who were in the third division of Cyprus. When you were playing for them, did you notice, a step up in quality overall, or did you find that fairly comfortable?
To be honest, I wouldn't say it was better than. I think my old team was better than Kouris, to be honest, in terms of standard, because we had a lot of full-time players in. Because some of the lads obviously work and stuff, and kind of doing two things at once, training in the evenings. And I remember playing in pre-season against my old team. I remember scoring like the best goal I've ever scored in my life. It was at the edge of the box. The ball got diagged over, and I chested it between two defenders and volleyed it in the top corner. And they had the VO camera to film the games. And I remember they told me after the game, "Oh, the camera cut out," and I was absolutely fuming. It's honestly the best goal I've ever scored, and I have no video evidence of it at all. I was absolutely fuming because honestly, it was genuinely the best goal I've ever scored.
Yeah, that would have been a fantastic addition then to your highlights reel for, if you're using the social media to try to engineer any further moves in future. You scored about 10 goals for Ermis, and you then decided to leave in January of this year, January 2022. So what was the decision behind that?
Uh, it was there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. I don't really know if I can kind of talk about. A lot of stuff was happening to myself, especially. Um, just little things and it wasn't a great environment to be in, and yeah, it wasn't great at all. And to be honest, I had offers from them in the off season a few times, but I didn't really want to go. It wasn't my really key destination. And then as I kind of got messed about more in pre-season, they kept offering, and I just kind of took it, and it wasn't the right fit for me. It really wasn't. I had a lot better offers that were a better fit, and didn't take it. And yeah, I had a couple of Division Two offers, but I didn't take it at the time because it was just personal stuff we couldn't really agree about. Yeah, yeah, just decided. I decided with the club that it was best that we part ways and kind of did our own thing really, because it just wasn't working out at all.
Were you using LinkedIn again then after you decided that you were going to leave the team to try to find your next move?
Originally, no, I was using my current agent, and I was kind of relying on him a bit, and then I just I just thought I'll give it like another go, and kind of keep using LinkedIn, and I'll give it another shot. And yeah, I remember the manager at the current club kind of, well, the assistant manager at the time requested to follow, like, be my connection on LinkedIn, and I remember seeing it. I was thinking, if he's obviously something there, and I slept on it, accepted it, and slept on it the night, and then I messaged him the next day, and then within an hour, the manager we were basically speaking about a contract.
Yeah, so it's amazing how these opportunities present themselves. Was that Matthew Tipton that you were speaking
Yeah.
with? Yeah, 'cause I remember him from back in the day, because I think he's about my sort of age, and I remember that he was a Welsh under-21 footballer many years ago.
Okay.
So at that time as well, was there any interest perhaps from teams in either England or Scotland, or was the move to Portadown one of the the first sort of real offers that you had?
My agent was talking about going to Scotland and stuff like that, and it was like League One in Scotland, which is still a good standard. And I wasn't sure because it was just sounded a lot of like it was just a lot of stuff to consider. And at the time, I was actually training with Dartford in the National League, and I was going in there every week and staying at my dad's because he was based up that way. But it was just too hard. I wasn't getting anything concrete. I was training really well and I was playing really well, and they wanted to see me in the game, which was kind of fair enough. And I just couldn't get a game. We couldn't get organised, and they didn't know when the next one was going to be, and it was costing me a lot of money to get up and down to Dartford on a weekly basis. And with no club, it's kind of like it's not ideal. And yeah, just I remember this came up, and I had a few offers I had an offer in the Maltese Prem. Uh, I had a couple of bits from abroad, and I had Cypriot clubs kind of offer me again, but I kind of just by a point where I thought I want to be back in the UK now, to be honest.
So now you're playing in the Northern Ireland Premier for Portadown. Have you found that an overall step up in quality compared to the teams you were playing for out in Cyprus?
Oh, massively! It's a huge step up. Like the caliber of players here is decent, and in the league itself is really high standard. You've got your teams that's got former international players and stuff like that playing, and it's a huge learning curve for me and a massive adjustment from being abroad. And being abroad, I'm one of the biggest lads on the pitch, but now you come in against 6'6" defenders and stuff like that, and it's kind of showing what you've learned over the course of being it from 18 to now, kind of implementing that on the pitch.
Is the Northern Ireland League, is it quite a physical league then? You mentioned there's some pretty huge defenders.
Oh yeah, it is a lot. It's a big physical league, and it's kind of taken me some adjustment because it's chalk and cheese, the contrast between Cyprus and the Northern Irish League. It's completely different, but um, yeah, it's been a good experience and stuff, and playing in front of a lot of fans, and the fans here they're unbelievable every week.
How long are you planning on staying at Portadown then, or when you contracted until?
Well, it's till the end of this season. When I spoke to Matthew at the time, and we thought to the end of the season was kind of the best idea for everyone because obviously if it wasn't what I was looking for, then I'm not in on a long contract and vice versa. Then um, so yeah, it'll probably just be for the summer, and we'll see what happens from there. Really.
And then you'll be back on LinkedIn again, presumably.
Yeah, I'll probably be on the LinkedIn account again, firing a few messages.
But you're only 21 years old at the moment, and it sounds like you've experienced a huge amount in your footballing career so far. You know, you've played in Sweden, you played in two divisions in Cyprus, playing in Northern Ireland, and the experiences you've had must be incredible compared to perhaps other players of your age who are perhaps protected in that bubble of whatever club they're in, playing under 23 football and all that kind of thing as well. But what I wanted to ask you then was what are your plans going forward then as a footballer? What level of football do you think you could realistically play at?
To be honest, my goals. I remember saying in an interview, it's kind of just I want to be playing in England, League Two, League One. I think is a comfortable standard for myself. But obviously, when I'm older and I feel like I'm ready, then I feel like the chance will come. I'm not forcing that move or anything. Like when it happens, it's going to happen, and I know that I can comfortably play at that level. Um, but like you say, it's just kind of getting the chance and stuff as well is is equally as important because it doesn't matter what happens down the line; it's what you're doing now. Um, so yeah, I'm just kind of focusing on myself now and training well and just hopefully getting as much experience as I can here and kind of hopefully get to show the fans. how good my goal scoring ability is.
Yeah, well, I really do hope that you do get that kind of move at some point in the future as well, because playing at sort of League One, League Two level in England, if you get the right club and you're scoring loads of goals, the fans will absolutely adore you, and you will be remembered forever. You know, speaking from my own experience as a Cardiff City supporter, I remember watching them when I first started getting into football, watching them in what was Division 3 at the time, you know, the bottom division, and my friends and I, we still talk about players now who we used to watch back then. So if you can engineer that kind of move, then yeah, you will be remembered forever. So I just wanted to thank you really for coming on the show today and sharing your experiences. I think you've given us some real insight into what it's like being a young footballer who is trying to make a career for themselves. So if anybody wants to follow you on social media, or to find out a bit more about you, perhaps see some goals that you've scored, if you remember to take your camera and get them recorded, where's the best place for people to do that?
I got my Instagram, obviously my Facebook and Twitter and stuff, and LinkedIn, obviously. All kind of social media platforms I'm active on, and post as much as I can and stuff, and honestly anywhere I'm guessing they'll be in the link or somewhere like that, and I'll send them over to you. And yeah, it's anything on social media really, because I've got to live up to the name of social media striker.
Okay, great. I'll get all of those links from you, and I'll put them in the notes then, so people can add you to all of their accounts and keep track of what you're doing as well. So yeah, I think we'll end things there. Thank you so much, Elliott, for joining me today. I've really enjoyed this. Like I said from the top, you're somebody who I've wanted to speak to for about the past 6 months. So I want to thank you for the opportunity of doing that, and I'll make a point of following you on social media as well.
Perfect. Thank you for having me on this. It's been my pleasure. I've loved doing it. It's been great to chat to you and kind of give you an insight of what my journey's been like so far.
If you enjoy Engage, please show your support at engagersclub.com, our exclusive members-only club with enough content, training and behind-the-scenes access to keep you going until the next episode. That's engagersclub.com. Also, please rate and review this podcast wherever you download them. Stay engaged.